I try to kind of be the person with the lantern saying this is the lighter road. I mean, you can take the darker road, but the
Yeah.
path of least resistance is a little bit easier. And I'd already discovered the spiritual path with my mom. She had really started me. So that was the kind of the first gateway. But then the second gateway was when he passed away. I was already in corporate. That's the invitation. And you start to see various signs that you've tapped into something that might be answering you back, which is you start to see, synchronistic things. It's still there. Like both sides are on the box, right? Or on the
Mhm.
tech box. You just switch your focus by turning the dial. The way that you have more of them is to write them down. I have over 2,000 messages in my phone right now because I channel my messages to myself. I used to write them and they were like 20 and 30 pages. Just stacks of notebooks everywhere.
Hey, family, this is the Thrive Word Journey. Look, life's too short to just get by, and 2025 is the year to persist. We're here to grow, build, and thrive. This podcast is all about powerful stories, real talk, and practical steps to help you level up in every area of your life. Now, if that sounds like something you need, don't just watch, be a part of the journey. Let us know you're here. Do us a favor. If you're listening on the podcast platform, download the episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. And as we always say, let's make thriving our new norm.
Yeah. Beat up, bullied, and dunked on. Beat up, bullied, and dunked on. Bullied and dunked on. Yeah. Let's get it.
That is the best way. Hey, today, we had some issues with my technology, but you know what? That's all good. And today, our guest is Mariana, but we're going to call her Mari, right?
Yeah.
Mari Cooper.
Yeah.
She's an internationally acclaimed intuitive life strategist, best-selling author, and third-generation intuitive. She has a BA in psychology, an MBA in marketing, and over 30 years of experience decoding the energetic communication system we're all born with. And we'll be asking about that. So Mari, she's here. She's going to help us with our purpose-driven and leadership, and she's going to help us unlock our 5D frequency and receive clear, practical guidance from what we would like to connect with. This is our higher self. She's the author of The Aha Factor and the upcoming book, Your 5D Toolkit. And today she's here to help us bridge the gap between logic, intuition, and true transformation. And we've already been talking, and I'm so happy that you're here. Mari, how are you feeling today?
I am feeling great. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I love it.
Absolutely.
So
it does feel good. And I'm glad
nice
that even that we had I had such an issue with my technology, which is fine.
It's okay.
Probably,
It's
like
high
you said,
vibrational stuff.
that's what you were saying, the high vibrational stuff. And I'm really, really excited because earlier this morning, my producer and I, we had a meeting and we were just talking about everything that we're going to talk about today. And, there's so many places that we could possibly go. So I don't know exactly where the conversation is going to lead. I know I have questions and everything like that. But in your words, before we get to the depths of it, how do you think that people will walk away after listening to this podcast?
Oh, wow. What I always say, I hope that I may not have all the answers, but I hope I can shed a little light along your way. I try to kind of be the person with the lantern saying this is the lighter road. I mean, you can take the darker road, but the path of least resistance is a little bit easier. And when you have someone to narrate your path, to narrate your life experience, which is your higher self, and we'll get into that, life gets a whole lot easier. So I hope that when you walk away from this show, that you are feeling inspired and like you have something to look forward to, which is
look forward to. Yes. One of the things that we talked about this morning was, transformation and what transformation looks like. And I know that in your journey, from my research here, you went from corporate career to your being an intuitive strategist. What was the breaking point, or what triggered that transformation for yourself?
The death of my fiance. That was in my early 30s. He passed away, and we were supposed to be the first wedding at Walt Disney World in Florida. That was that was when they started. That's how long ago it was. But we were supposed to be the first wedding, and we had all kinds of big dreams. We had a dance company. He was a choreographer, and so we had a lot of big dreams, and they all kind of stopped.
Mm.
And I think we all have different steps onto our path of the frequency based stuff. But that was the first big gateway as far as I wanted to be able to communicate with him. I knew I could. I was already doing readings. I'd already discovered the spiritual path with my mom. She had really started me. So that was the kind of the first gateway. But then the second gateway was when he passed away. I was already in corporate. And I still had more corporate ahead of me, but
Mhm.
it started to make me study different things and ask different questions and have the courage to make different decisions, non-traditional decisions in a very traditional. I mean, I was working for AT&T. I was, in multicultural marketing, communications, advertising, and entertainment
Yeah.
marketing, and at the Olympics and all that stuff. So it was hardcore. It was
Mhm.
hardcore. You know,
Mhm.
90s corporate America was hardcore.
I'm
And
sure.
I was doing all of my psychic stuff on the side. But they traveled like this for a while because I was just using one to get through the other. You're trying to figure out how you're going to deal with all these people in corporate. So you have to have your kind of alter side of yourself to survive it.
Right.
I call it corporate anesthesia. Like you put on the mask, you go in, you eat the same bagel, you walk the same hallways, you go to the bathroom at the same time, you have the same meetings, you spin around. And especially in a phone company, is very traditional type of, and it was a Fortune 10 company at the time. So it was hardcore. Like it was no joke. It was fast
Yeah.
paced. And I was in the advertising side of it. So it was in marketing. But yeah, I think I started this path to survive that path. And then this path kind of overtook it. I will say that when I left corporate and I started consulting, because I got a promotion to be a vice president of a promotions company, and then I had left corporate. I went to the agency side, and then I got out of that and I went into freelancing. So I was
Mhm.
a contractor and then executive consultant. And eventually I was hired by an executive at AARP who hired me under a marketing arm, but she used me as a psychic. Yeah.
Okay.
And would pull me in as an intuitive into like interviews and have her help her with corporate politics and managing the energy in a room and all that. So it was a very interesting merger. And as I came out of that, Facebook started, and that's when I came into this full time. So it was this very interesting, I was getting certifications along the way and, kind of doing my own thing. But that merger was very interesting. It was very organic, very,
Okay.
a constant unfolding.
Yeah, do you feel like that connection was, I mean, you kind of flowed, right? From the corporate
I mean,
America.
flowing by crashing and burning. I mean,
Oh, from
it's
the
a life
burn. Okay.
crisis, and then you ask bigger questions, right? Like most people, you start to ask these kind of questions because you've gotten to the end of what your linear thinking can do for you,
Okay.
right? You hit your wall, and then you say, there must be something else, and your higher self says, yes, there is,
Yeah.
and, but if you can still throw money at it, and you can still throw distraction at it, and you can still throw relationships at it and say, oh, if I just had a guy or a girl or whatever, I could be okay. And then you try that and it doesn't work. Oh, if I just have a baby, then all my life will be, oh, if I just buy a house. But, eventually you run out of things and you start to ask a different set of questions. And when you ask that
Mhm.
different set of questions, it opens up a whole different set of resources that you've had all along, kind of like Dorothy and the slippers.
Yeah.
As the slippers have been on the whole time. It's just that you've been focused over here and not realizing that you have this whole. It's like I always liken it to having a computer, right? So you go out and one of the, we all have our ways of trophyizing our success, right? So we
Right.
say,
Yeah.
if I do this, I'm going to get my trophy. So my trophy was a MacBook Air, but I was going to have it built like that. Like the Apple guy sat with me and we like custom built this thing, right? So I was
Mhm.
not MacBook Air, MacBook Pro. I was graduating up from the Air. And as I'm a Leo, I want all of it. Is it pretty? Is it expensive? Is it phantasmical? I have to have it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And I get all this stuff, and I'm like, ultimately, I do email and social media and Word, and I don't have 400 videos on it like I thought I would, and I would rather have a video team do it on their own computer and then instead of doing it on my. So you have but I have all this engine,
Hmm.
but I'm using like a thumbnail's worth of it, right? And
Hmm.
we're born with a tremendous amount of engine, but we're focused on Word. We're focused on email.
Yeah.
This huge hard drive, a terabyte of storage, and we're doing emails.
We're
That's
doing.
how we're managing our world until something bad happens and know that we can't fix it.
Yeah, that seems like to be an inception for a lot of change for people when something negative happens. But before you get there,
Mm.
what is the connection towards from that world that you're talking about, the corporate world, to the more, I guess, spiritual world, or what you would say that like the other set of questions, like when you're asking all these other questions that lead you linearly, what are the other set of questions that start to make you think about the higher world, the higher self, or the more spiritual side?
Well, I think it's actually kind of the opposite. So our linear side kind of already has a blueprint because our parents and society has given us the blueprint. You're supposed
Right.
to do this by this time and graduate by that time and date
Which is what
somebody.
it seems like that you were explaining before.
Right. And then so when that doesn't work, then there's new questions that come like, why didn't that relationship work?
Hmm.
Why do I have this health crisis? Why did someone pass away completely out of nowhere and completely untimely way before their time?
Hmm.
Am I ever going to do something that I love? Am I even allowed to love what I do? Is it really all just about the Puritan work ethic? Am I going to always be marginalized in tough situations? And like, how do I survive this? Those kinds of questions, those really hard questions that you end up saying, okay, I'm just going to numb out because I don't have an answer, or I'm just going to
Hmm.
go hang out with my friends because I don't have or I think I need to go to Tahiti on a big vacation and maybe I'll find an answer, right?
Hmm.
And so when you start to step, though, normally if you ask this one question, which is, isn't there more to the life than this?
Yeah.
Then that's the invitation. And you start to see various signs that you've tapped into something that might be answering you back, which is you start to see, synchronistic things, like 4:44 on the clock, or over and over again, or 11:11, or you're starting to be waking up in the middle of the night, in the middle of like 4 o'clock in the morning, very consistently, which is unusual for you. All those kinds of things. The universe starts to talk to you, and the language starts to wake up in your
Hmm.
consciousness, where you can consciously start to notice, oh, wait a second, there might be a pattern here. And that's kind of like, come ask us the questions, because if you don't ask the questions, it can't go around your free will.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. That's okay. That's
does that
perfect.
answer your questions?
It does. And it leads me into the next thing, because I mean, there's a list of questions, especially Yvonne, the producer. She's like, ask these questions. And I'll ask them for sure. But
I like Yvonne. Bring
um,
Yvonne on. Bring her on.
bring
Have a
on, right?
three-way
Uh,
conversation.
well, you'll definitely get a chance to meet her. But we were talking earlier this morning, and I was talking about you talked about 3D and 5D worlds, right? And we were trying to. I mean, from your book, you explain it, but we were talking, and I was like, well, maybe it's like this. And she said, well, to ask her. I was like, I'll ask her. And it's like moments when I'm sitting here, like I can touch the microphone, I can touch the computer, that's kind of 3D-ish, right? But there's moments in life, and just moments, probably just seconds, that will occur where it's almost like the 3D is almost virtual. And there are moments when I'm only 5'9.5", right? Pushing, I try to say 5'10", but it's not really 5'10". But there's a moment, and I've had this a few different times, where I'm standing up and I feel much taller, like 6 feet, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, but I feel much taller. So in your book, you talk about 3D, 5D. Is that what 5D is kind of like, or what am I experiencing when that happens?
So you're experiencing a peek through the veil. Like, so you're getting so we're operating in 3D and 5D at the same time. We're operating in all of these dimensions at the same time. One of the best ways I can, in a short description, to describe it is, if you have an A/B switch, like an input on your remote, on your TV, and you can switch to inputs, right? So you can switch to the input that's going to get you to Netflix, and you can switch to your cable box, and if you still have cable, you can hit Spectrum. And it's a completely separate set of input. It's like an A/B switch. So it's like over here, like even like if you have a podcast set up, over here you're going to get mono. You can interview one person. Over here you can host 3 mics on interview 3 people. But there's a switch that switches you back and forth.
Yeah.
The box is all there. It's still there. Like both sides are on the box, right? Or on the tech box. You just switch your focus by turning the dial. So you're literally living 3D and 5D at the same time. It's just that you switched your focus so that you could perceive the more expanded version of you while you were still conscious in your 3D side at the same time. And so what will happen is, that's kind of basically the bottom, that's kind of the description in a roundabout way of the aha moment, where your infinite side and your 3D consciousness connect, and you get an awareness of, both at the same time, and you go, whoa, that's an aha moment, right? There's a whole anatomy to an aha moment, but that's generally what happens. So you are experiencing greater consciousness with your 3D consciousness at the same time, for sure.
Okay, I understand that. So in that moment, like if anybody's who's listening or watching, in that moment, what are we to do to either continue to live in that moment for as long as it exists for us, or when we're in that moment, what do we do in that moment as far as anything in the practical steps of the world?
So I want to explain two things. Can I just take a couple minutes to explain the anatomy of an aha moment so you understand the structure of it? That'll
Absolutely.
answer 90% of the question. And then I can give you a couple of ideas on how to get more of them.
Yes.
I'd like more of them. Okay. So the first thing I always have, and it's in the book, and the book is Beyond Intuition. I think I did something wrong in my bio. I probably didn't update when I changed the name of the book because the book renamed itself like at the very tail end. But that's for later. So the anatomy of the aha moment, I talk about in both of my books because this is really important from just understanding energetic structure and how it works. The first thing is that we have our physical senses, but overlaid over our physical senses, we have energetic senses.
Mm-hmm.
So we have energetic sight, energetic hearing, energetic knowing, energetic feeling. There's some other ones, but we call those the four clairs, the four main clairs. So clairvoyance is energetic sight, clairaudience is energetic hearing, claircognizance is energetic knowing, clairsentience is energetic feeling. You'll hear people in the psychic domain say, oh, I'm a clairvoyant, or oh, I'm a clairaudient, or I'm clairsentient, as if it's some sort of special gift, but it's not. It's a sense. It's just like your physical senses. It's just the energetic version of them. So you're born with all of them. You're not just born with hearing and not sight, or not sight and not, and not taste and touch, right? So those four clairs have, they overlay over your physical body. They're on the minute you're born, they're here. It's how your mother can sense if you're crying, even though she can't hear you. It's how you can, it's part of the instinctual package, but it's also part of the expansion package. It keeps you connected to your higher self, to the greater energetic part of you. So as far as the anatomy aha moment, when your higher self is going to send you a message, it always starts with those four clairs. So you might get a feeling of deja vu. You might all of a sudden see something peripherally and you kind of look like what was, and then you don't see it with your 3D eyes, but you felt like something was there. You might hear lyrics of a song in your ear. If you ever hear lyrics of a song, I always tell people, slow the song down in your head and start to listen to what those lyrics are saying. 9 times out of 10, there's a message in there. And if you can just hear the melody in your head, go and Google it. If you can just hear a couple of words, Google the lyrics so you can read those lyrics, because there could be a message in there. You might get a sense in your stomach, but the first part is your higher self is always going to deliver your message first through one of those four clairs, or several of them at the same time. The second thing that's attached and happens immediately, simultaneously with that energetic message being sent, is your body is a psychic antenna. Your body, literally, within every cell, there's space, and within that space is frequency. So even though it feels like your physical matter, you're actually a lot of frequency walking around at the same time. Again, if you did the A-B switch, you'd see that you're more space than you are matter. That's a whole nother day's conversation. That's a couple more shows. There's too much
time with that.
But your body has a visceral reaction to an energetic message. So you'll get goosebumps. You'll get a feeling of lightness. You'll get a feeling of like, I think I'm bigger than I am. You'll get a whoosh feeling, or you'll get a sinking feeling. You get that, or you get that little flash of heat when you're like, ooh, something pissed me off. I can't figure out what. So your body says, mail's in. I just got a message, and that's why you're getting goosebumps, a sense of knowing, or that sinking feeling. So step 1, energetic message comes through the four clairs. Step 2, body has a reaction. Step 3 is your higher self goes out into your environment and sends you signs, symbols, and synchronicities to give you reinforcement that message is there, or to give you some sort of beginnings of context. Generally, it's trying to be a catalyst, so you'll ask a question so we can then have the invitation to give you more of a contextual message, right? So those 3 things, when you have those 3 things happen, that's when you say, that's really kind of what the structure is of that aha moment.
I
The
love
way
that.
that you have more of them is to write them down.
Mm.
So if you keep a notebook or keep a memo pad or even on your phone, do a quick voice memo or keep a kind of a pinned list in a notes app or whatever, and just say, you know what, I had an aha moment today about this. Write it down. That's an invitation, because your higher self can only follow your free will, right? And your free will is actually on the 3D side. It's not on the 5D side. That's a whole, no. So you always have the chance to veto. Your mental mind always had the chance to veto spirit if it wants to. Why so many people are stuck. So the way that you invite spirit for more energetic conversations that can happen in a physical way that you can discern is to write them down or to record them.
Here on the Thrival Journey, we talk a lot about not just surviving, but thriving. And a big part of that for me has been understanding my health on a deeper level. That's why I partnered with Live Good and brought it under my company, Orion's Health. Not just because I believe in the products, but because I've seen what they can do firsthand. I've walked through some hard health chapters in my life, including cancer and a kidney transplant. And I know what it feels like when your body's working against you. That's why we're offering 2 free tools that help me and can help you too. First, go to myfreehealthreport.com/Orion's Health. Take our quick health questionnaire and get a personalized report created by Dr. Ryan Goodkin, Live Good's Director of Product Development. It's clear, actionable, and totally free. Second, visit myfreedetox.com and get a free chlorophyll and zeolite detox bottle with your first product order. It's a gentle, natural way to clear out toxins and start fresh, something I personally use and stand behind. This isn't just a sponsorship, it's part of my mission through Orion's Health to help people thrive in body, mind, and spirit. Of course, always, always, always consult your physician before starting any new supplement or health regimen. Your body is unique, and your healthcare provider should always be part of the conversation. The links are in the show notes. Now tap in and take your next step toward thriving.
I have over 2,000 messages in my phone right now because I channel my messages to myself. I used to write them and they were like 20 and 30 pages, just stacks of notebooks everywhere. And it's got to the point where it wasn't efficient. So I started to record them. So that's what I have my clients do now. They do a combination of the two.
That's such a smart way. And I think that I have moments when I'm like in that space of where I need to write things down or put them on voice message. And this may happen to people who are listening. They know that that's probably what they should do or can do to continue to have those moments or live those moments over and over again and see what those moments are meaning to them. But then we get lazy or we won't have something that will help us remember or record those moments. Is there a solution for that?
To get as fluent as you can in the language and to see it as a language as opposed to a coinkydink or a coincidence or something that has to be kind of cattle prodded out of yourself. So when you study any language, if you stay in the flashcard stage or in the, ¿Dónde es el baño? Like, where's the bathroom?
Where's the bathroom?
Like the basic vocabulary, yeah, you could maybe get around talking Spanglish to somebody in New York City or, get to some Hispanic country and do some charades and, but you're not going to be able to have a job there or negotiate a contract for a house or get out of a fight or know when you're in danger because somebody's talking behind your back. You have to have a higher level of competency in the language. So instead of seeing it as these energetic tricks, start to realize that it's frequency-based physiology that you're born with that you need to get to be as fluent in as you are in your intellectual abilities, and then combine the two. And then you're really operating full operating power. Your energetic side is actually meant to be carrying 80% of the load of your life. Your physical, intellectual side is meant to be doing 20. If you don't have the skills matching each other as far as competencies, what happens is you start to overwork your 3D side. You overwork your mental mind and your emotions and your physical body. And that's why people get sick. That's why they end up having, mental health issues. That's why they end up having stress related things happening because they're overworking something that's not supposed to be carrying that weight. And this is why my mission is to get people aware of this energetic language, of this energetic physiology that you're born with. It doesn't require some special gift or you to be a psychic. It's not psychic development. It's not about predictions. It's
Mm-hmm.
about guidance. It's
Mm-hmm.
about having a narrator, having that Batman and Robin type conversational relationship with the energetic side of you, which gives you access to all the things that are in an energetic form that you need
Mm-hmm.
to bring over here, which is the manifesting process, which everybody seems to be excited about.
People are excited about that. And so what I'm hearing in that too is that it's available to you just by experiencing the life of being a human being, right? But some people think that it's woo-woo. And from how you're explaining it to me, these are practical things that are available to you because you're a human being. And then we were talking about where we're humans experiencing a spiritual, I forget how she said it, but we're actually spirits experiencing human existence or something like that. I think you probably know what I'm talking about.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not a human having you're a spirit having a human experience instead of having a spiritual experience.
Spiritual experience, exactly, right. So that's available to us just being human. And so for people who are doubting like the ability to have that or do that or be that for themselves, what would you say to them?
Well, the first tenet that I always talk about, and this is the first structure that's important to recognize, is especially if you're born into a family that's involved in formal religion, right? So any of the 7 or 8 formal religions, whether it's Christian or Protestant or Jewish or Muslim or whatever, we're basically told when we're operating on the 3D side of the AB switch, that we're these physical bodies, that takes precedent. And then we have to find this spiritual thing within us, hopefully. And then there's this thing over there called God. And somehow or another, with the help of a middleman, like a rabbi, a minister, and a plate for money, we can kind of somehow get over that thing over there and maybe save the thing that's in here. And there's this whole convoluted thing that's going on with manipulation. So the way that really operates, the way that we're really physiologically structured is when they talk about eternal, all of the religions talk about eternity.
Yeah.
There's certain threads that are all the same, and they all talk about eternity. And eternity is we don't die, we transition or whatever, but we are these big giant balls of energy. This is what we really are. We're these big giant balls of energy, and that doesn't die. We were started at creation. Everything that was ever going to exist already exists. We decide as this big giant ball of energy operating in a non-physical world that we want to have a physical experience because that's how we can ascend and expand and experience with consciousness. So we allow a certain portion of our energetic. We take on a thimble of a body, so like a body car, like think going to Hertz in your car, and you get in the car as the driver. Now, all of you doesn't get in the car. You have a whole navigation system that's outside of the car telling you where to go. So we're these big giant balls of energy. We decide we want to have a physical incarnation, to have physical experiences, to help our personal expansion and ascension. So we allow a portion of ourselves, a small thimble-sized portion. Ratio would be our normal energetic self is the size of the planet Earth. This particular body, Mari, Michael, this particular body is the size of a thimble in comparison to the full part of you. So the majority of you is not in your body. The majority of you is the navigation system. We call that the higher self. The part that we allow to be the driver in the body car that animates the body is our embodied self. And that body car drives around the 3rd dimension, whereas the energetic side of us operates in the 5th dimension. And the language that swings back and forth between the two is the energetic communication system, right? So it's really important to, if you see where your orientation is, right? If you see where you're orienting from, then it's much easier to accept that you're getting these bigger feelings, feelings that go beyond 3D logic, right? And things start to unfold and sort out for you with that connection. And the stronger the connection and the more contextual you can be in your ability to interpret that language, the easier it gets. And that probably didn't answer your question. I hope you can ask it again.
No, that's perfect because you talked about, well, first of all, let me address this. You said only a portion of us, which I think you a thimble of us, are really in this body that's driving us, who we are as human beings. But the majority of us is really, we're like, So I think I can explain it for me is that when we walk into a room, people can sense your energy. It may not be you as a person because they may not even see you, but they can sense your energy. So that may go before you. You know what I'm saying? That
Oh,
may
it
enter
does.
the room. Oh,
That's
it
right.
does.
It
Yeah.
does. It
And
can even go between walls. You can even, I mean, it can go, a car can be passing by and somebody's really angry and you can feel like some sort of waft of anger. That's again, another day's conversation bigger than the time we
yeah,
have for today.
yeah,
So
exactly.
we could talk for a while.
Yeah. Well, we will. I mean, I know we'll try to keep it within an hour, but
Oh, go ahead. It's fine.
um, and so like so you're walking to that room, they feel that energy, and this is the part that's next really connected to our higher selves that we don't necessarily connect with all the time. Is that true?
I don't think I understand what you're saying.
So I wasn't, because I wasn't going there, and so that's probably what came out. They our bigger, our huger selves, the part that is not inside of our body, that's our higher self, right? We go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
Do we, okay, like this, why don't we always connect with that higher self that people can necessarily like that can feel energetically when we walk into a room?
Well, you're always connected to your higher self. It's on 100% of the time. It's whether you're listening in or not. Like
Okay.
right now, I know my higher self and your higher self are connected. I'm listening with all my cells. I call it energetic transfer, teaching, learning, conversations, so that I can perceive your energy as much as I perceive your word. Like I generally perceive people's energy first and their words,
Right.
so that I can pick up on the bigger picture of the question that you're
Right.
asking. Right. And you're trying to transfer because you're trying to do it in a short period of time. We're on a show,
Yeah, you picked
and
that up.
reference what your producer said and reference what you read in the book, and try to get it all out. And you're genuinely from your heart curious. So you want to know, because you're the type who's going to operationalize whatever I'm saying. So you're trying to say, okay, do I know enough to operationalize that? Let me ask it a little different. And then you want to be representing your audience. So there's a lot of things going, like what would my audience want to know? Like what,
Yeah.
I'm their rep. And so when you have all that going on, you can't do that just from your linear mind alone. You're
Hmm.
always perceiving, right? You're
Hmm.
always like, you could be talking to your spouse, your significant other, and you're like, you just said you want a cup of water, but you know what you want. You want me to sweep the kitchen. Like you
Hmm.
just say, if I go and ask you to get me a cup of water, you'll see that I didn't finish sweeping. You know what I mean? Like, when somebody has, their words are saying one thing, but their meaning is something else. That's your higher selves working
Hmm.
together. Right? That's your energetic side,
Yeah.
because now you're tuning into a non-verbal, non-intellectualized set of senses, right? That you're
Yeah.
operationalizing. So this is on all the time. And you don't have to say, okay, I will now enter the room as my higher self. Your higher self is there,
It's
it's because
always
it's
there.
who you are. It's literally your higher self is just, got a little costume on a piece of it, but it's still, and remember, the part that's in your body is still your higher self. It's just doing the embodied thing, right? And it's got under, and this is very important, it's under a different set of infrastructure. So 3D physical infrastructure, is time, space, linearity, all the negative emotions, blame, shame, guilt, fear, anxiety, all of that, all of your physical senses, all of your biology, all your physiology. And it's governed by the mental mind, which handles your memory and your ability to see what other people have done before. So your points of reference, right? So that's all the 3D side of the dashboard that you have when you get into that body car. And that is governed by its own set of infrastructure, right?
Okay.
So it's under its own laws, the law of gravity, the law of physics, all that stuff, the law of cause and effect, Newtonian physics. That's all on the 3D
3D.
side of the infrastructure. But on that same dashboard, within the physical body you have now and the physical body I have, on the other side of our dashboard, on the passenger side, is your 5D dashboard. So you come with travel size versions of all of the phantasmical things you can do in energetic form. You come with travel size versions of that to use in your physical body, in your physical incarnation. So that would include your energetic communication system. That would include your ability to do alchemy and manifest, bring things over that are stored in energetic form into physical form. So that's the manifesting process. That
Yeah.
also includes your ability to do self-healing. And that also includes your ability to choose your reality through choosing, timelines, parallel realities, and things like that. That's governed by your higher self. So you have your
Hmm.
higher self governing the 5D side of your dashboard, and your mental mind governing the 3D side of your dashboard.
Yeah.
The trick is that they're operating on two different infrastructures. So your 5D side is operating no time, no space, no linearity. Everything happens in the present moment. There are no negative emotions, and everything is one. That's your
Mhm.
higher self side. Your 3D side is there's time, there's space, there's linearity, there's cause and effect, there's negative emotion. So that's where I think a lot of your questions are stemming from, is that you're asking kind of across infrastructures and across tools and across, you're going like this, like, I think I have to control this. And I think there needs to be a time and I need to know about this so I can control. And from a 5D perspective, you don't, but you do need to have awareness that you're operating on which chassis you're operating on with your thought process. So like right now, I'm channeling this. I'm literally like, I'm not just doing a Mari answer. I'm saying, okay, what would you like Michael to know? What would you like his audience to know? And they're giving me a stream of consciousness, like say it like this. I'm not predicting it. It's not a psychic reading or anything. It's just a stream of consciousness to support a greater audience.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote the book. And I hate when people reference their books on shows, but I'm just saying, I wrote this as an operating manual because it's the missing manual, right? Because
Mhm.
it's technical. It's a physiology. This is not a parlor trick. And when
Yeah.
you understand it, your life starts to make a lot more sense
Mhm.
and be a lot more expansive,
Yeah.
because now you can get into things that you couldn't get into if you were just thinking linear.
Yeah. There's two different infrastructures, and you called it up perfectly, because I had one level of where I was, and then there's another level of where I was, trying to bring those two together, and then somewhere in the middle you get lost, or I got lost, and you were able to pick that up, which is really great. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. Yeah.
No, you shouldn't be. You're allowed. It's a hard, when we get to be adults, we think being a beginner at something or finding something that we didn't know about, that, see, this is 3D, how we're built in 3D. It's like we're rewarded for decisiveness and for answers and for making sure that we're right and making sure that we know already. And that shuts down frequency. Frequency, the best way to access your frequency is to say, yes, this is where I think I know to this point, and what else is possible?
Mhm.
Asking open-ended questions get you answers, as opposed to if you're decisive and conclusive, then there's no room for your higher self to come in and top your best idea. You come up with a great idea. This is a tip you can use, and you and your audience can give a try. I always try to offer certain things on these shows so you can, start to play with it a little bit.
Yeah.
You come up with an idea. You want to go on a vacation. You say, okay, I'm gonna find what's on sale. You say, okay, I found all of this. Now higher self top my best idea. What else is possible? You'd be amazed at what comes up. Upgrades, sales, private jets, whatever. I mean, I've gotten all kinds of things on trips where I just say, hey, what else is possible? What's your best idea? Top it. This is my best. Show me even better.
Mhm.
How can it get even better today?
Yeah.
That's,
And you don't.
that's
I'm
the
sorry,
invitation.
but
No,
that's
just an invitation to a bigger conversation. That's it. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, that's the invitation. And you talked about meditation, and it doesn't take hours. And that seems like what you just shared kind of connects with that. Which you don't have to meditate for 12 hours to figure out what next thing I need to do for my business, or what strategy do I need to come up with in order to get more sales. So all you have to do is just kind of sit there and just ask.
Well, I think it's not quite an all you have to do thing, because that's, again, a 3D kind of structuring of like, okay, if I just do this, then I get that
Yeah.
cause and then effect, right? So I think what you want, the framework for that is, there's a 4-part framework for you to get the operating action steps. So the 4-part framework is clear, connect, communicate, create.
The 4 C's you talk about, right?
I am now open to perceiving from a frequency-based perspective, right? I'm not just looking for the hardcore, 3D stuff. I'm going to connect. It's saying, okay, I'm recognizing that there's an energetic aspect of me, and now I'm choosing to tune into it. So I'm going to sit, and this happens from 2 things: silence and stillness. You get still just for the stillness. The communication piece can drop in at any point after you're back up and running in your regular life. So it's the same thing with each choice that you make. You're choosing a parallel. You're choosing an outcome. It's already there. So that's why they say focus where you want to go. I think it's really important now to have 2 things. One is education, and the other is community, a place to practice, because you need to be with people of like mind who can give you that. That's part of the confidence, is that you're not the only one having these